Hey everybody, welcome back to the couch for episode 26. It's snowing outside, I think. It's real pretty out there. It looks nice. I'm on my second week of trying to embrace and enjoy winter, and it's going well. Mainly because I don't have to go anywhere or do anything. Uh, so I just get to enjoy the sights, and it's good. It's a continuation of my varying attempts to find the good in all of this as we come up on day 300 of COVID living. I think we'll hit 300 sometime this week, and it's been hard finding the good sometimes, but in the moments that I successfully find the good, the effort is always worth it. And I think a lot of that has to do with just accepting your situation. There's a lot to be said for refusing to accept certain things, but there's a lot to be said for acknowledging that you're in an unchangeable situation and endeavoring to find the good in it, I guess. To that end, I hope you guys had a good New Year's. I've never been a huge celebrator of New Year's Eve. I don't get it really. There's a kind of nice optimism about it that people think that at midnight on December 31st something will change. But as I get older, I'm less. I feel less affection for that optimism because it is so sort of ineffective. I think a lot of people, I'm not talking about resolutions or anything like that. I'm just talking like, oh, I just can't wait to get this year behind us. And then you wake up on the 1st of January and nothing's different. And I think some people do themselves a disservice by maybe putting off some work or some effort and fooling themselves into thinking that somehow on New Year's Eve something's going to change. But the main reason I'm not a huge fan of it is that the way it's celebrated, I'm just not a big fan of. I don't like crowds. I don't like. I'm fairly uncomfortable around drunk people. They're very unpredictable, and it's the same reason I don't want to go on safari. So usually if I don't have a show, we just stay home anyways and watch like the Dick Clark New Year's Eve thing, which I know I'm not going to enjoy, but it's fun, This year my wife made a bunch of games for us to play with Oliver, and it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. But man, watching those New Year's Eve shows can be rough as you get older and the music world starts to leave you behind. I'm definitely fully at that age where most of what is happening in popular music doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I'm trying to, there's a sweet spot you got to find where you just got to let that happen. You just got to say, well, you're coming up on 40 years old. The producers of Saturday Night Live are not thinking about what you're going to want to see. And at the same time, you don't want to totally give into that because it'll make you old before your time. So you have to try to find the good. So I like to watch these performances and go like, well, the drummer was really good, or man, she can really sing though, or something Justin Bieber. I don't know. It's easier to take a more lighthearted approach when you realize that they don't care what I think, and the way of the world is going to be the way of the world, whether I get bent out of shape about it or not. So we saw some musical performances, and they were musical performances. In theory, a lot of them were just people dancing over pre-recorded versions of them singing the song, and they just weren't even singing the song. sometimes in really obvious ways. Like, I remember they used to at least try to trick you into thinking that they weren't lip syncing. But now the problem is, because I use microphones professionally, I know how they work. And I know that the volume changes as you pull it away. So like, you watch a lot of these performances and they're really feeling it, but they have the microphone like way out here, and you're like, that's not real. But again, people like it, and I don't want to ruin anybody's good time. And you know, Lord knows Dua Lipa don't care what I think. Dua Lipa's a musician, if you didn't know that. And she's got a really good voice. So let's see, what else? Oh, speaking of musicians, some musicians I do like. There's a band called Old Crow Medicine Show, and they're like a string band. They're not really a bluegrass band, but they're in that vein. They have banjos and mandolins and things. And they released a song to the singer for Old Crow Medicine Show partnered up with Molly Tuttle, who's this great sort of new bluegrass guitar player, and they did a song together to raise money to benefit the Democrats running in Georgia, which is a cause I support. And they announced it on Facebook, and so many of their fans got so bent out of shape about it, to the point that they claim, at least, I think a lot of people don't follow through on threats like this with musicians and athletes and stuff, but they claimed, you know, you just lost a fan, and and I thought that was a bummer, because it's funny how long a band can exist and make pretty clear their stance on things, and still most of their crowd chooses not to hear it. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, they say one additional thing, and people kind of snap. And it's like, the biggest shock here is that you're shocked that these guys are sort of liberal-leaning people. So I bought the song. It was like a digital download, and I bought the song. And I don't normally comment on stuff, but I didn't want the ratio to be just in favor of people complaining. So I just commented. I said, "Great song, good on you for fighting the good fight." And some guy, he did the laugh react. Like, you know, you can like something, you can heart it, you can whatever. He did the laugh one. And that got so deep into my head. I'm embarrassed to tell you how upset I was about this little laughy face, and how I would go back to it and just look at it. And I even clicked on the guy's page. And it was private, because he's a troll, and trolls are cowardly, and it was private. But his like banner photo was like an American flag font, because that's how you show respect for the flag. You make it a font or a bikini or a can koozie. And see, I'm not upset. And it said something in Latin, which I was so upset, I copied it, I pasted it, I translated it, and of course it said, "out of my cold dead hands," which reminded me of a joke I made once. I said, the NRA should start selling mittens. I mean, it's bad enough that you're dead and somebody's taking your gun away. You shouldn't have to be cold, too. And I still think that's pretty funny. But I thought for a long time about, like, what I should do in response to this guy. All the while knowing in the back of my mind that the only thing to be done was nothing. Because anything else is what he wants. He wants me to be upset. He wants me to engage him. He wants me to... That's kind of the brilliance of trolling, is that in a sense they always win, because either you respond in any way and they win, or you don't and you feel frustrated that you don't get to respond, and you have all these thoughts of like, I'm probably wittier and smarter than this guy, and in a real debate I could take him, and almost certainly he would never come up to me in real life and mock me or something, because I'm 6'1", and you know, it doesn't happen that often. Because people don't know that I'm a pacifist. They just know that I look like a Viking from the planet Denim. So I thought, like, I could block the guy, but then I feel like he would see that, oh, he blocked me, I got in his head. I thought, like, I know what I'll do. I'll buy the song 20 more times and tell him. I'll just respond like, hey man, appreciate the laugh. I love getting a laugh. As a way of thanking you, I bought the song a bunch more times. But finally, inevitably, I knew I just had to let it go and focus on the good, which was that a band I liked put out a song that I liked for a cause that I supported, which is special these days. It's probably a longer conversation for another day, but I really struggle. I find it impossible, in fact, to separate the art from the artist. It's a conversation that's been happening for decades, and I'm not talking about my preference or my morals or anything. I'm just saying I literally can't do it. I can't listen to a song without thinking about the people that made it and what I know about them and that kind of thing. And that's tough in the modern age because we know so much. I think we know more than we're meant to, not just about musicians and athletes and actors, but about everybody. Like there are friends of mine that I like a lot in real life, but their digital presence I find kind of taxing. And I very often say, like, man, I really like so and so out in the world, but I might have to unfollow. And a lot of times I see musicians that I like do things that I maybe don't like, and not even like things I find terribly egregious. They might just have a vibe or an attitude or say something that I find objectionable. Like a comedian that I really like recently did a bit about how it doesn't matter who you vote for, and I was really sort of upset by that. Not angry or sad, just upset, like taken out of my stride about that, because like, well, I disagree, and I think you have this platform and you're saying something that I think is kind of factually inaccurate, and you're probably doing some damage, and you're still really funny, but like, I wish you hadn't said that. So it was nice to get one where, like, oh cool, this band that I like has opinions that I agree with, and are presenting them in a way I agree with too. They just said, like, hey, here's this song, we're going to donate all the money to the Democrats in the Georgia runoff election. They didn't berate anybody or belittle anybody or try to speak on things that they might not be totally in the know about, which is something I try to be kind of careful about too. They just did what they do. They put out a song, and it was a good song, which I think is the most important thing. And so when this troll started getting to me, I just had to sort of redirect. Let's have some coffee. It's good stuff. So maybe someday we'll have a longer conversation about separating the art from the artist and my experiences with that. And of course, I haven't said it in a while, but if there's anything you guys ever want to talk about or hear about or ask about or whatever, let me know in the comments, or you can email me at christopher@christophergold.com, and we'll figure it out. In the meantime, let's play a song. This song, I'm excited to play this song because the only recorded version of it is very loud and very rowdy, and possibly maybe our rowdiest song. But I worked up this version because I wanted to be able to play it at all of my shows. And I don't always like just playing an acoustic version of a song. I like reworking songs specifically so they work in a different setting. This song is called Pillar to Post, which is a saying that I heard that in varying definitions can mean kind of through and through, from end to end, and usually it's used in relation to some kind of exhaustion. I feel like I've been thrown around pillar to post, and it worked with this song because the song is about being tired, like in your bones, I'm getting older. I'm coming up on 40 in a couple of years, and I have a son who's 11, and those two things, I think getting older and raising a young man, have put me in the mindset of really thinking about what kind of guy I want to be, and being conscious of what I'm doing and the choices that I'm making, and whether I'm a good thing or a bad thing in the world. So that's part of what the song is about. But as you make those decisions, you start to realize that not only are some guys making different decisions, some guys aren't even actively making decisions. They're not even thinking about it. And that makes you feel sort of disconnected in a way from a lot of people. And then I think there's a thread running through this song about sort of, it always starts as anger, and then it becomes sadness, and then it settles as just kind of exhaustion. That the Me Too movement, in my opinion, never really came home, which I find disheartening, I guess. I support the Me Too movement, and I think it was good, a lot of the things that happened. But I realized fairly early on that, like, people were picking the easier fights. Not everybody, but a lot of people in my immediate world were sort of, and I won't even say my world, I'll say at the local level, people were still looking up at Hollywood, for example. And I realized, like, it's not terribly difficult to cancel Louis C.K. Insofar as it doesn't really cost you anything. In fact, if you wanted to, in the privacy of your own home, you could still enjoy his stuff. But in situations where we might have something on the line, where we might have to make a decision that I'm not going to be a part of that social circle anymore, or I'm not going to go to that restaurant or that bar or whatever, I found a lot of people's tone kind of changed, and that was disheartening. And I don't want to be too hard on people, because, you know, obviously these are hard decisions to make, and it's hard to put stuff on the line. Just where it left me feeling was a little bit on the outside of something, and a little bit like at the local level, the Me Too movement didn't have the impact that it could have, where it would have been the most impactful. Like, the fact is, if the Me Too movement had hit my town of 75,000 people, it would have really been notable, and it would have made a much better place. And you know, I don't want to be cynical. Like, hopefully someday that'll happen. And in the meantime, I have this song, and it doesn't really. This is one of those songs that was just for me to sort of get out some feelings. It doesn't really propose any solutions, and so far the only one I've come up with is to think, to really be thoughtful about who you are, especially as a guy, and certainly I make mistakes, and there's things I need to work on, and things I need to fix, and probably things that I think that other people would not agree with. But I think the easiest thing to ask people to do is just give it some thought, you know, think about it, and ask yourself, you know, it's all well and good that we all got behind canceling Harvey Weinstein because that was the right thing to do. But how many stories have you heard in your hometown of people that you're like, that's probably true, and even if it's not true, the stories are out there enough that we should probably be talking about it in some real way. But, you know, that would actually cost me something, either in standing or in, you know, options for going out or whatever. And I genuinely don't have a thing in mind that I'm being vague about right now, but I could. In the meantime, this song's called Pillar to Post, and it goes like this. mistakes the kind of man would make. The shine wore off in the last decade, like all the decay, the pain on your face, the things I can't get back that I gave away. From pillar to post and holy to ghost, well, I've been waiting here. Line is erased before it's replaced, and none of these pictures seem to change. And I'm feeling my age, and I'm so out of place. These figures are fixtures in this place. From pillar to post and holy to ghost, well, I've been waiting here. From pillar to post and holy to ghost, well, I've been waiting here. If it's peace of mind or peace and quiet, I'll hope for both in time. Well, I put away my old song, put away right and wrong, 'cause they were never mine. You will find me in between. You will find me in between. From pillar to post and holy to ghost, well, I've been waiting here. From pillar to post and holy to ghost, well, I've been waiting here. Thank you. I'm just used to saying thank you at the end of songs. Let's do some recommendations and let's get out of here. I got videos to edit. There's a fun thing coming that I'm working on, and I'm excited to share with you. Hopefully next week. We'll see. The other fun thing that I did a couple weeks ago, I recorded a version of Christmas in Prison by John Prine, and they played it on the radio here in Appleton, where I live, on WAPL. And that was fun. I really love that song. Speaking of songs I love, we talked about this band because our Christmas tradition here at the Gold household is to watch one of their live shows. This band is called Flogging Molly. This record is called Drunken Lullabies, and it's a big one for me. It's important. My first encounter with this band, I was 17, and my dad had started exposing me to bluegrass at a pretty young age. We went to some festivals and that kind of thing, and I enjoyed it. But by 17, I was deep into my punk rock phase. I say phase like it's ended, and it hasn't, but it has evolved in a way I'm glad that it did. Because at 17, I thought, if you're into punk rock, there's rules, and you have to just listen to punk rock, and there's all kinds of stuff you can't like, and this, that, and the other thing. So I was fully committed and devoted to punk rock at 17. And there was a late night show called Late Night with Craig Kilborn, and Flogging Molly was on. And for some reason, I saw like a commercial saying they'd be on, and I saw how many people were in the band, and for some reason I was just intrigued. So I stayed up real late, and I watched them perform a song called What's Left of the Flag. And people call them like a Celtic punk band, and I've heard the band themselves sort of resist that label. But their singer is from Ireland, and there is a definite vein of Irish folk music running through this band. But there is also like a punk rock energy, and they have banjos and mandolins and accordions and fiddles and tin whistles and that kind of thing, but also like gang vocals and pretty quick tempos and electric guitars and that kind of thing. So all of a sudden, here's this band that was telling me that punk rock was bigger than I thought, and that everything I loved could be brought in. And certainly I don't think that I play punk music or Irish music, but I do think the music that I play draws from a lot of different areas in a way that I felt like Flogging Molly gave me permission to do as a youth. So like I said, they play very fast, but I've always said this about bluegrass too, that if you listen to bluegrass, it sounds like bluegrass, but if you put drums on it, it would sound like punk rock. It's very fast. So check out What's Left of the Flag, and I really just think they're a great band. They write great songs, and I'm glad I found them when I did, and I'm glad that I still love them to this very day, and I hope some of you will enjoy it as well. Moving right along, Sturgill Simpson. This finally came in the mail. I've been waiting for a long time. It's called Cutting Grass Volume 1, The Butcher Shop Sessions. The Butcher Shop is a notable studio down in Nashville. The story behind this record is Sturgill wanted to raise some money for charity, and he said that if he raised a certain amount, he would make a bluegrass record. So his fans raised a lot of money for a couple different charities. I think they were for out-of-work musicians and veterans, if my memory serves, which it often does not. And so he made 2 bluegrass records. This one has 20 songs on it, and they're bluegrass versions of existing Sturgill Simpson songs. And I was very excited about it, not just because I like bluegrass, but because though I've been a fan of Sturgill Simpson's and I've bought his records, I felt like the sort of outlaw country thing was a box he had been sort of put into that he didn't always totally fit in. And I feel that way about a lot of the outlaw guys. There's a lot of that stuff that people assume I really like, and I don't listen to much of it, because I do feel like it's one of those genres that it's real easy to fall into the trap that is that formula, you know, songs about cocaine and the road. And Sturgill started out in bluegrass, and he's always said like he writes all these songs as bluegrass songs, and then varying forces, labels and managers and things sort of force them into outlaw country songs. So here he is playing bluegrass, and goodness gracious, it's fantastic. Check out Time After All. It's really good. The whole thing's really good, and the band is really good. Sierra Hall plays mandolin. She's very good. Tim O'Brien plays some guitar. He's very good. And check it out. It's got the drummer from his old band, his old road band, playing snare drum on it, which I think will be controversial for some old bluegrass people. There's varying definitions of bluegrass, and by some definitions, it's not bluegrass if it has drums. I don't personally think that. I think it adds a nice little bit of momentum to the proceedings. My personal thing about bluegrass is, if I had to put rules on it, which you shouldn't, but if I did, I would say they have to be string instruments. And I was always taught that for it to be bluegrass, one of the rules is every instrument has to be able to play the melody, which is where you get this rule that you can't have drums because drums can't play a melody. And I think it should be able to be done without electricity. But again, I like having drums sometimes, and you know, I think rules are kind of meant to be broken. And by the very rules I laid out, you could have like a saxophone in there, and that wouldn't feel right. So, I don't know. Rules are silly. And maybe that's the theme of this week's recommendations. Flogging Molly ain't playing by no rules, and neither is Sturgill Simpson. So I'm going to go because I have to sneeze, and I don't want to get caught trying to hold it in. I don't want to sneeze on you guys. So, I'll see you next week. Be good. Let me know if you want to talk about something. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Be good. Think about who you want to be and go be it. And what's that from? Oh, there's an Avett Brothers lyric where he says, decide what to be and go be it. I like that. That's good stuff. I'm going to go do that. After I'm done sneezing, I'm going to go be who I want to be. See you soon. Love you. Bye.